Welcome to this session on workflows. We're super excited to have you with us as we're gonna just explore how you can set up workflows in Concord to just make your contract management easier for you. Just a quick introduction, I'm Alice. I work in marketing at Concord. You've probably seen our emails. I'm the one in charge of them. I'm usually not presenting. It's usually Blake that you can see on the screen. He just couldn't join us today. If you hear a little bit of an accent, it's because English is not my first language. I'm actually French, but super happy to meet you. And yeah, today I'm with Quincy. If you would just want to introduce quickly yourself, Quincy.
Yeah, Quincy Berg. I'm an account executive with Concord. I've been selling contract management and e-signature systems for about 8 years now. I mainly work with prospective customers, those looking to purchase Concord for the first time. So Alice is a part of one of our chat messages here. It'd be good to paste both my calendar link as well as Blake, one of our
Yeah,
customer success managers' calendar links. Yeah, I'll be walking you all through the demonstration here today.
super cool. Yes, I'm dropping the. Don't hesitate to reach Blake or Quincy if you have any more questions after this session, either on workflows or anything related. We'll be happy to help you. So yeah, today we'll be talking about system-wide workflows. The goal of this webinar is usually to walk you through how to master Concord, but also to answer your questions. So don't hesitate to just use the chat to ask any question you could have. And yeah, then I'll hand out just the floor to Quincy to present a few workflows you could use in Concord that will just make your life easier.
Absolutely. Let me share the screen here. And for all the attendees, we like to keep this sort of an open forum as well. I'll be walking you through some system-wide workflows in Concord today. But if you have any specific questions, feel free to use the chat and we can get those answered for you. And Shauna asked a quick question. Is this webinar just for Savita? Shauna, we have a wide range of companies on this webinar here today. So this is sort of, once again, an open forum for both prospective customers and new customers to come in to learn more about specific functions within Concord. Perfect. Well, let me share the screen here. You'll just see my sort of Concord inbox pop up here. And there's a few system-wide workflows that I'd like to share with you today. Company approvals, intake forms, as well as some automation functionality within the system here. So the first one being company approvals. Just to give an example here, as you work documents through the life cycle in Concord, you can set up these approval processes within them. So this is a basic example where I have one person, let's say my chief financial officer, that needs to approve contracts before I can send them out externally. These are the sorts of approvals that you can set up in Concord. From your CFO's perspective, using this example, your CFO would receive an email saying they have a document that needs their approval, and they would be able to go into the document here, click approve or reject. If you have multiple individuals on an approval process, once the CFO approves the document, then the document will go to the next person in the approval chain. Now, to set this up globally, I like looking at this section of Concord. It's in the automation section here, and it's under approvals. This is where you can set up system-wide approvals, and then you can apply these approvals to any document or template that you're working on. And so we'll just add in an approval process here. We'll say this one's an exec approval. You can give a description if you want to. And so now we'll go ahead and add in an approval step. You'll notice here there are different departments listed as what we call teams in Concord. You can also bring in teams of individuals into an approval workflow. And so maybe to start this approval chain, we'll have the finance team, which has 2 individuals, be the first step. In which case you can choose, okay, only one member of the team has to approve, or you can force approval by all members of that team before it goes to the next step here. And we'll say it just to complete this approval chain. Zach is our CEO in this case, so we'll add him in as a second step in the process. And so now we'll save that. And if I'm, maybe setting up a template for the first time, or maybe I want to apply that workflow to a document that's actually working through the process, this is where you can do it. So I'll just pull up a template here. I'll click edit. I'll go to the approvals, click set approval. And I had a bunch of other, system-wide approvals set up already, but here's my exec approval. I can just preview it if I want to. And then I can save it. So now anytime this template is used, that approval process is automatically applied onto that document. We'll start draft here. This is probably not the best example. There's some bulk sending functionality in Concord, which we'll probably cover on a subsequent session. But now, anytime this template is used, the approval process is forced. It has to go through the approval for your Concord user to be able to send it out externally. Alice, if you don't mind just manning the chat, I don't think there have been any responses yet, but
Yes, for sure. Don't worry.
just can't
I'll
see
keep you
the chat
updated.
on the screen.
For now, no question.
Perfect. Outside of that, we have the intake process here, which I'll show in a moment. The one other thing I like looking at is our workflows capability in the system. So a workflow, you can think about it like an if-then statement in Excel. If a document is tagged with a specific piece of information, then Concord knows which folder to send the document to, as well as which people to invite in. So I'll just pull up this example workflow here. So when any document or template is tagged with this value employment, then Concord will move the document into the proper folder inside of the system. And then this is the secondary capability. Alongside moving the document to the proper folder, you can tell Concord, okay, when this document is tagged with this employment value here, now we're going to invite in specific colleagues as reviewers, and we can choose what their permission level is. So this would be helpful in the event you have a document that's moving through the process where maybe it's being negotiated on. As soon as the document is tagged with a specific piece of information, then we could add in a legal team, for example, who will automatically receive a notification that they've been invited to review the document. Then they can go into the document, they can start marking it up and handle the negotiation process from there. Another reason I like showing this is this functionality ties really well into our intake forms functionality. So with the intake forms, just to give context, this is a process where you can centralize all of the requests for contracts, whether you receive a request to create a contract for another colleague or request to review a contract for another colleague. In the intake forms here, you can set up specific forms for your requesters to fill in, to make sure they fill in the proper information when they're making the request. And you'll notice here with this specific form, I have it linked to a template. In that template, you could set up a tag. It could be legal, it could be whatever. And when that template is used, and because it has that tag, that can trigger that workflow that I just showed on the screen to send the document to the proper folder or invite in specific individuals internally. I will show two intake forms here. There is a follow-up that I needed to do from our last session as far as how do you do vendor contract reviews inside of the system. So I'll be covering that here today. The first one I will do is sort of a document generation type of workflow using these intake forms. So in this example, I'm Quincy. I work in the marketing department at XYZ company. When I want to send out an NDA to a vendor or a contractor, let's say, I need to make a request to my legal team, and legal actually sends out the NDAs to the end recipients. So as someone in the marketing team, I can use a free viewer license with Concord to come into this section, click create intake request, and then I'll choose the proper form I want to use. And in this case, I'm going to give the request a title and a due date. I can add in additional, information if I'd like to here, but I'm asked to fill in specific details as a part of this request. And once again, these can be anything. These are a couple example fields. You can set up whatever sort of fields you would like in this form for the requesters to fill in. Easy. It's definitely not a Milwaukee zip code, but we'll go with it. And so now the requester, submitted the request. My legal team just received an email notification that a new request has been made here. They can open up the request, get to this screen here where they can assign the request to themselves or another member of their team. And now once they accept the request, they can go ahead and create a document. And because we have a template tied to the underlying form, now all the information the requester filled into that form will just automatically flow into where it needs to go in the contract. And you can also set it up where your legal team has the ability to override this information to just make changes, clean up typos, things like that. And so now I have this request set up. I already have a workflow where someone internally is set up as the second person in the signing order. So now I would be able to go ahead and share out this request, punch in the email address of the external recipient and send it out. And now as the document is moving through the life cycle, both the requester and the legal team that is handling the request in this example can see where the document is at in terms of, okay, was the intake request accepted, as well as where is the document at in the life cycle. So this is a nice piece of functionality. If any of you deal with requests and you get a ton of requests over email or in Slack or Teams, and it's hard to keep track of, where the requests are at, are you working on requests? Have you not been working on any requests? This gives you one pane of glass for everyone to look at to track all those requests. And in the second example here, we'll do a vendor contract review. Let me just make sure I have a sort of an example document here. So in this case here with a vendor contract review, you can add in descriptions here of what you need the users to fill in. So we need, when does the contract need to be executed by? Is this a one-time or recurring contract? Whatever sort of specific details you can put in here to help the requester fill it in properly. And in this case, we'll say that the request is due on August 31st. Need ABC company contract reviewed. Okay, this is a one-time contract. Say the vendor point of contact email is my personal here. And then the person making the request can add in a document. Let me just drag and drop this one over here so you don't see all my computer files. Oh, I'll just have to add it in this way. So now the person making the request is added in the vendor contract. They can submit the request. Whoever is handling the request just got an email notification as well. They can open up the request here, do the assigning like I mentioned earlier. And with how the Concord system works today, I recommend that people handling these requests click on this link here to download the request. They'll go ahead and accept it, and they'll create a document. Here you can add documents in as attachments, but that's not what I would recommend doing. So once I get into this template here, now I'll take that proposal and I'll add it into the document content. And then the document will load up onto the screen. And then from here, I can do whatever next step I need to, whether it's inviting in specific colleagues to review the document, or maybe I need to make some comments back to the requester. I can use the discussion panel here to do that. But now we take this document, maybe we'll want to trigger that exec approval workflow on it. I can send out my requests to have whoever is actually going to do the negotiation or review of this contract be brought into the document. You'll notice here this is a PDF, so PDFs are not editable in Concord today, but if you receive Word documents from your vendors, you can make those Word documents editable inside of Concord, which would allow you to suggest changes to the language directly inside of the document. So I'm going to just kind of take a pause in this workflow. That's kind of bringing a vendor contract into the system to start working it through your review process. If you have a
Quickly,
Word
Quincy.
document, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, now that we're transitioning, we just have one question from Jennifer. Can non-users access an intake request form, or do you have to be a user to access and complete the intake form?
Your non-users would need a free viewer license of Concord. So they would need a license, but it's not a license that we would charge you for. As long as they have a free viewer license, they'll be able to go and see this section here with all of the requests they've made, as well as create new requests.
Thank you, Quincy.
Sure. But back to my example here, let's say I uploaded in a Word file into that vendor request intake process. This is a section here where you can actually suggest edits to Word files directly inside of Concord here. So with this one, I've already made quite a few markups here. I would be able to come into the system, maybe I want to, remove this, just jumbled text here, or maybe I want to suggest some different edits here. We'll just cut this paragraph off, for example. So this is where you can actually suggest edits directly to the contracts. You can, once again, bring in the other approvers internally that need to, maybe also help with the negotiation. And as I'm making suggested edits to this contract, Concord is keeping a running trail of all the suggestions I've made, as well as if the external party has accepted or rejected those suggestions. And then from here, you have a couple options. Once you've done your markups in this process, I can either export this document out to Word and all of the suggested changes up on the screen will show up in the track changes in Word, or I have the ability to just share this back out externally and allow my external recipient to suggest edits to the document as well. In this case, we'll say Joy is my external recipient. If I want her to be able to suggest edits back or make comments on the document right inside of Concord, you would give her the editor functionality and then send it back out. So I kind of broke it down into a couple steps. It got a little bit choppy there, but the point being is you can do vendor contract reviews, set up intake forms for those, any sort of document workflows where your Concord users need to generate documents on your colleague's behalf. You can set up intake form processes for those. And once again, just because we have a lot of attendees on the meeting here, if you'd like to do a follow-up session, sort of a one-on-one session, about anything that I've shown so far, feel free to book time with me or with Blake directly, and we're happy to do a meeting like that.
Great. I think now is the time for questions. If anyone has questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat.
Looks like Catherine has a question. Can the workflow be set up to go straight from the generated doc to the signature phase? For example, with NDAs where vendors typically sign with no red lines. Yes, they can, Catherine, as long as you have, kind of a nuance with that workflow is you need to have e-signature sections set up inside of your Concord document. So let me just pull up this one here, view template. So what I might recommend looking at, Catherine, is inside of a blank template in Concord, you can set up what is called a preset signature block. And so this is where you set in, in your example where, vendors are signing contracts with no red lines, you can add in your internal signatory as this preset signature here. And so once this template is used, in this case, I'll just generate a document from a draft and I'll bring in that sales proposal once again. When I load in this document, now Andrew he has his signature sections at the bottom that he'll fill in. So that's the first step, is set up the preset signature block. And the second step is to set up that automation that I showed earlier. So let me come back to the template here. So the template that you're using in that vendor request intake process, you're going to want to tag that template with a piece of information. So I'm just going to add in, let me see what I have inside of the system here. And once again, this can be any piece of information that'll trigger the flow. Let me I'll just make this a little bit easier for this example. And then Catherine, based upon how you're setting up tags and properties in the system, then I can make recommendations in a one-on-one session on, what tags to use to set up this workflow. So in this case, we'll do just a simple vendor tag. And then in our automation section here, we'll want to set up a workflow. So vendor workflow. And let me see where this one's at. Okay, so I just did this incorrectly. You need to use a property inside of the system when you're setting up this workflow. So let's just picture in that template, I had set up a third party here is one of First Dibs. And then to execute the workflow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite in our signatory, Andrew, from that template, and we're going to make him a limited editor. So now when someone submits a vendor request intake form, in that form, we have the vendor request template tied to it. That template is tagged with a specific piece of information. So when a document is created from that template, Concord knows to automatically invite in your signatory. And because we set up the signature section in that blank template, now our signatory, Andrew, will automatically be able to sign that document, and the process gets much more automated where you don't have to manually send out the document to Andrew. So thanks for the reply, Catherine. Kind of did that on the fly. So hopefully that helped it sounded like it did. So.
We don't have additional questions so far, and we're approaching to the end of the session. So maybe I'll share my screen quickly. All right, so if we don't have additional questions, yeah, we're at the end of the session. Just to keep you informed, we're working on a lot of exciting things, and we'll continue to keep you updated with those weekly webinars that we're hosting. So just keep on joining, and we'll be walking you through new product updates as well as tips to master Concord better and also answer your questions. In terms of exciting things, we're having a new AI-powered search and a new AI Copilot platform that will come out around early fall. So yeah, just We'll stay in touch to walk you through those updates. It's really exciting. We're working really hard to make Concord evolve and to be more modern. If you have a question, don't hesitate to reach out to either Blake or Quincy. Um, their email address is on the slide, but we've also shared it through, yeah, through the chat.
And Alice, I'm sharing my screen because for all the
No problem.
attendees, this is what we call the system-wide co-pilot. This is another, system-wide sort of automation functionality that we're coming out with this fall. So this is where you can run analysis on your entire database of contracts by just typing in queries in natural language here. So for example, I want to see all vendors that we have signed a contract with over the past 12 months, and the contracts have a value greater than $50,000. You're going to be able to type in a prompt like that into the system, and then Concord will do the research and it'll prepare a report for you against all of those parameters. So we're very, very excited about this functionality. We feel like this is going to be a game changer for our customers to just help you do broad analysis over everything sitting in your Concord account. So we'll certainly keep you all up to speed, as we get closer to the release of that. Dylan, the Concord Copilot is on our AI plans. And I apologize, Dylan. I work with a lot of customers. Your name sounds awfully familiar. I believe you're on an AI plan, but I will double check that after the meeting and can send you an email about that. So yeah, just to summarize that, you need to be on one of our current subscriptions listed up on our website to access the AI extraction as well as the AI Copilot. Perfect. Thanks, Dylan.
Great. Well, I think we're approaching to the end of the session, so have a great day, everyone. And thank you, Quincy, for all of those demo.
Sure thing. Thanks for your
Thank
time,
you.
everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.